I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again on the New Forest for a walk. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Bank, which is just to the southwest of Lyndhurst in Hampshire. And we're going to be doing a 4.5 mile circular route from here through some beautiful, well, quite glorious ancient woodland, some lovely heathland, and then we'll be coming back through the even smaller hamlet of Gritnam. So do join us. It's a beautiful sunny day at the moment. I'm filming at the end of August. There was a really big storm yesterday. Things have dried up now, so hopefully it should be perfect conditions for walking. Well, I'm going to start the walk by just having a little meander through the village of Bank itself before we head out into the countryside. Now I've parked my car in a tiny little lay-by right next to the pub. Speaking of which, I shall show you right next to me here. There it is, the Oak Inn. That may have originally been a cider house on this plot way back in the 1700s. And indeed it was listed as a cottage and garden on a 1838 map. But the present pub was built in 1850 when it was known as the Royal Oak. We'll start making our way through the village. It's not very big, only about 40 houses here, and it seems to have been formed in the 16th century as a settlement encroaching the New Forest. The original name was Annis Bank, and then it became Annesley Bank, and to the east of here were a couple of 18th century estates called Cuffnells and Wilverley, and the inhabitants here would have been mainly workers for those two estates. But there are some lovely little properties here, and there's one just here, a really sweet one called Japonica Cottage, and I think that's the oldest property in the village at 16th century. Well, how about this one? I think this is my favourite building in the village, the old cottage. Isn't that lovely? It dates back to the 17th century, although I see there's a date 1600 on the side there. Originally it was a thatched roof and then it became tiled in the 1920s. It may have had a post office in it at one stage, and in fact if I turn around here there's quite exquisite old brick post box. What's that? George the Fifth, I think, isn't it? GR. When was he? 1910 to 1936. Well, another absolutely enchanting cottage. Almost looks like a face, doesn't it, with the two eyes at the top and the nose and the front. And in the very far distance, I don't know if you can make out, there's a spire of a church. I'm guessing that must be St Michael's and All Angels Church at Lyndhurst. I know that's got a very tall spire. Well, I've now headed into some woodland. This is the Brick Kiln Inclosure, established in 1810, about 36 hectares. Mainly oak and beech, and some pine was planted in the 1960s. But if you look at a very old map, the 1814 driver's map I think it is, the whole area around here was completely open, and it gets its name from the fact that, well, there was in fact a brick kiln based here in the early 19th century. Well, the sun's out in all its glory now. It really is quite beautiful. There's quite a bit of a wind though. I'm guessing that's the remnants of yesterday's storm, so apologies if it's coming out on the audio. But I love this time of year with the heather coming out. Isn't that beautiful with the purple colour? I expect the bees will be making the best of that now. So we're following this cycle track. We've come out of the Brick Kiln Inclosure, and there's a bit of woodland over there. It's either called Whitley Woods or Whitley Inclosure, and I'm going to do a little detour in there to see if I can find a particular oak tree. Well, I've just spent the last 10 or even 15 minutes trying to find something called the Whitley oak, and I've not had much success. It only just creeps into the top 25 list of celebrity oaks in the New Forest. There are so many oak trees here, but I don't know, I have come across one. I'm not sure if this is it. There's no, I've not been able to find a map with the location on it. All I know is its girth is 5.7 meters and it has been pollarded. Now this one just by me here, I don't know, that it might be it. It might be it. It's certainly pretty wide. It has been pollarded, but one of the trunks, or part of the trunk, has been destroyed. But nonetheless, it's certainly a smashing. Well, there's some terrific oaks, a whole series of them in here. It's great. Okay, we're now going to do a little loop into the Hursthill Inclosure, which was established in 1808. And if I pan round to show you where exactly we are, 75 hectares, originally oak, beech and sweet chestnut, but now there's quite a few blocks of Corsican pine and Douglas fir planted from the 1950s, a lot after the storms also of 87 and 1990. But oh, look at these. They grow tall so quickly, don't they? Right, let's kick on, lad. Smashing pair of ants' nests here. That one's looks as though it's been damaged, so let's have a look at this one over here. Of course, these are southern wood ants. Is he beavering away? Hopefully you'll be able to make those out on the GoPro. Oh, these always fascinate me, they really do. And just turning around slowly behind me over here, we've got a whole load of heather bales that have been left, and these are going to be, I'm guessing, used to put in streams and ditches around here, with the idea to slow the flow of the water so that it doesn't cause too much erosion. Now, someone was asking me the other day how big the New Forest National Park was. Well, it's 566 square kilometres, and the Crown owns just under 50% of it, about 266 square kilometres, and it's managed by the Forestry Commission, or should I say the Forestry England, which is the child of the Forestry Commission, and the rest is privately owned. And then that's old, what I would call New Forest perambulation, in other words, that's land where common rights apply. That represents about 67% of the national park, and of that, about 60% is woodland enclosures and broadleaf woodland, and the other 40% is heathland and grassland and wet heathland. So, that's your statistics over for today. There we go. You got it? It's time for the usual pit stop for blackberries. Gosh, that's quite an atmospheric sight, isn't it? Although quite sad. Most of those trees, in fact, if not all of them, look a little bit on the dead sides, if they've rotted in all that marshland. Gosh. We've now come to an important part of the walk because we've been heading westwards for a while. Now I'm going to start heading north and following basically the route of the Highland Water. I've just found another absolutely gorgeous display of the heather. Just turn around and show you what I'm looking at. Completely covered in purple. Isn't that beautiful? Now, we've been here before because I'm just trying to remember when we were here. January, February time I think it was, when we did the Brockenhurst knoll walk. And where I'm standing now, we're under about a foot of water. It was freezing cold that day. I'd like to say it's a lot warmer today. We're just about to cross over the Highland Water. As you can see, it is actually flowing now. A few weeks ago it was completely dry. It's only 6 miles long. The source of it is just north of the Hursthill Inclosure, and then it joins up with the Ober Water actually not too far from here, and then for the remaining 7 miles or so it's known as the Lymington River, and it flows out to the sea at Lymington, and we've seen that on our Lymington video. But oh, it's so pretty in here with the sunlight coming through the trees. And there we go. But you can see how just from the depth of the banks, how much of a stream or a deep stream this can get in the middle of the winter. Thinking about it, it's not quite the same as the beach, I know. Well, this is one of these places you just want to stop for about 5 or 10 minutes and just soak it all in. So peaceful in here. Again, this is the Highland Water slowly meandering through. Very, very brown. And then just panning round. What a variety of trees here. Some gorgeous oaks here, a lot of bracken obviously, but and all I can hear is, well, a little bit of wind. That's about it. Very, very peaceful. Whew, it's getting quite warm now. We're on the homeward leg and we've just emerged from some woods to stumble across a tiny little hamlet of Gritnam, and it literally is only 6 or 7 properties, I think. But unlike Bank, it is actually listed in the Doomsday Book as Greta or something like that. But well, it really is pretty. I say it literally is a little road that goes round in an oval with a cluster of houses. Well, we're just coming back into the outskirts, into the village of Bank now. There's a couple more properties that I want to show you. The first one is this one here called the Cottage. Originally it was one house in 1883, and then 2 more were added. And the one nearest to the road was a reading room, then it became a school, but then it all got converted back into the one property again in 1898. And then the second house I want to show you is this property here, Annesley House. It was built in 1883, became a Dr. Barnardo's home in 1943, and then it was converted to apartments in 1971. But I think the bench that we were sitting on right at the beginning in our introduction mentioned Dr. Barnardo's. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up or like, and do make a comment. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe. That way hopefully you'll be able to join us for another walk in the New Forest sometime in the future. Well, we're off back to the Oak Pub in Bank for some light refreshment. So until we meet again, thanks for joining us, and cheerio. Should we go and see if there's any more squirrels to look at?